her grovel. Not yet, anyway. Good luck. Margaux turned to leave and came face to face with the most recent photo of herself. An awards dinner at the plaza. Tall, sleek, her impossibly curly auburn hair gelled, sprayed, and pulled back into a classic French twist that an earthquake wouldn't ruffle. Her black evening gown, one of her own designs, had stopped conversation when she'd entered the room. She was holding a glass of Taittinger champagne and smiling, at the top of her game. And now the game was over. She walked across the long expanse of wooden floor to the elevator, her heels tapping in the deserted room. She stepped inside and closed the grate, listened to the rhythmic creak as the ancient elevator descended to the ground floor one last time, stood as it clanked at the bottom, then pushed open the door to the street. The air was thick with car fumes and the noise of living. Hand carts filled with goods rattled up the sidewalk. Garbage bags lined the curb. Men late for appointments shouldered past slower pedestrians. An old woman stuck her mittened hand out at Margaux. "Help an old lady?" Margaux couldn't even help herself. She no longer belonged here, had no place here, no business, no apartment, no income. There was only one place she could go. Nick Prescott glanced up as the blip appeared on his radar. Resignedly, he tossed his History of the Ostrogoths in Italy onto the passenger seat beside him. He should be sitting in his office correcting final exams, not hiding in the trees waiting to ticket some unsuspecting speeder. Nick flipped on the siren, pulled the cruiser onto the tarmac, and took off after a bright blue sports coupe going at least 60. The tourist season hadn't even begun, and already the summer people were breaking the law. The car slowed and pulled to the sandy shoulder of the road. Nick followed and stopped several yards behind it. He noted the make, model, and license plate. New York, of course. Connecticut was their weekend retreat of choice. As he got out of the cruiser, he slipped on his sunglasses and unsnapped his holster. He'd been out of the Army for 10 years, and until 6 months ago, he never thought he'd ever use a firearm again. A woman sat behind the wheel. The window was open. Her hair was windblown. Auburn, deep, rich, like burnished mahogany. A color that, as a boy, stopped him in his tracks. It stopped him now, even while his rational mind told him it couldn't be her. He took a breath and stepped up to the car. "Ma'am?" She looked up at him with wide, serious blue eyes the color of a sunlit sea. He'd know her anywhere in spite of the years that had passed. Felt the same jolt of connection he'd felt 20 years before. It hadn't changed, hadn't softened or diminished, and was still just as one-sided as it had always been. She had no idea who he was. "Do you know how fast you were going?" 55? 60. But that's only 5 over the speed limit. It was, a mile back. But you've entered Crescent Cove and it's 30 here. A worried expression flitted across her face. "I didn't see the sign." "Driver's license." She riffled through an expensive-looking handbag and came up with an even more expensive-looking wallet. "Take it out, please." She jimmied the license out of the plastic sheath and handed it to him. Her fingers trembled a little. Margaux Sullivan. She jumped as if the sound of her own name was a surprise. He frowned at the license, mainly to keep from staring at her. She clutched the edge of the window. Her nail polish was chipped. She definitely had been biting her nails. The cuticles, too. Not something you'd expect from a hotshot New York fashion designer. And though she had turned into a beautiful woman, there were dark circles under her eyes, and she looked drawn, not just model thin.